Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hello and welcome to our new podcast for Shaman's Way. Thank you for listening, my constant listener, and thank you for taking the time just to share. I know how precious your time is, and I appreciate the time that you do spend with me as we go through some of the different aspects of shamanism. As promised, this is a podcast where I will teach you the methods that Spirit taught me in regards to our Chakra Guardians. I discussed the chakras and the pendulums in my last podcast and discussed a little bit the aspects of the archetype and the use of the archetype from the Carl Jung's perspective of it being the storehouse of personal or collected experiences, expectations, and that we manifest different archetypes within our bodies. There are some spiritual individuals, explorers, who have assign different archetypes to different chakras. I learned that many years after Spirit taught me this particular series of journeys. So although I appreciate that there is some very interesting information on chakras and archetypes, and I've certainly looked at it, and I certainly have played around with it myself, and I encourage you to do the same, to explore and explore. So without further ado, allow me to introduce to you how Spirit introduced me to my Chakra Guardians. What I was experiencing at this time was an imbalance in my third chakra. So that's the one just underneath the sternum. I had been working with a group of people, and we were studying what our chakras were, and we were visualizing what the color of our chakras were. And my second and third chakras, the colors, were switched. So instead of being at red, orange, yellow, I was red, yellow, orange. So in the journey, I flipped the chakras so that they would be in the proper position, or what I felt was the proper position. What ensued after that was a long journey of having a very anxious and nervous stomach. And when I went for acupuncture, the acupuncturist would invariably place needles in the third chakra. And as I laid on the table, I could watch them vibrate, going brrrr. Underneath the skin, there was this intensity. I had the very good fortune of meeting a person whose name was Shine. I don't know what he goes by now, or even if he's still practicing, but it was my first experience with being healed with a didgeridoo. And during the journey, the experience that I had with the didgeridoo, I realized that I had made a mistake when I flipped the chakras because it wasn't natural for me. And during the healing, my chakras flipped themselves. And 1.5 years of anxious stomach and rolling energy through those places, everything just went calm. Everything just went back to itself. And the effect for me was immediate. And I remember laying on the floor, and I remember bursting out laughing. in this incredibly serious moment. And sometimes that happens in healings where you just burst out laughing. And I laughed and I laughed, and it was so freeing to realize that this mistake, this unknown mistake, this trying to do things by the book, had actually created disharmony within my body. And I laughed at the dismissal of my own intuition. So with Spirit's guidance and my own intuitive wisdom, I got to probably where all of you are on the other side of this microphone. I trust that you are at a point where you are actively seeking a spiritual relationship. Seeking it not only to understand yourself better, but the multiverse within which that you live. One of the wisdom paths we learn is how to travel through the physical body, to acquaint ourselves more formally with a part of our very being, our chakras. Chakras are the physical and the spiritual body connection to all of the worlds around. Chakras are receivers and transmitters. We take in and interpret energetic perceptions in these centers, in our chakras. So we are, in essence, tuning into our physical body. Now, how some of you will gain access to your physical body, some of you won't have any issue with it at all. When I say journey to your root chakra, any issue with it at all. When I say journey to your root chakra, some of you are going to be able to just get there and be okay with being there. For others of us who've never journeyed into our physical bodies ourselves, what I recommend generally is to start your journey in your anchor spot, and from there we come into, and you throw your intention that you're going to enter in through your crown chakra. So the body then is very large, and you're able, in your standing upright position, to walk through the body. And you're going to be able to walk through the body, and you can pay attention to muscles, to breaths, to sounds, and it may be nothing at all. Maybe nothing at all. I don't know what you're going to encounter. So you would take yourself down to the very bottom. I'll explain this in more detail. It is important to remember that the process of this, or the reason we do this, is integration. We can heal our pains, and we can heal our familial pains, all of which helps to lead to a more whole person. What I took the most time to heal and to work with was mending the rifts between my mind, my body, and my soul. I was instinct injured. And I talk more about being instinct injured and making the abnormal normal and the normal abnormal in the podcast and the story that I did called The Necklace. Along the relationship of mending the rifts, someone once told me that the three aspects of ourselves no longer trust one another. Our soul has made decisions that have harmed our body. Our body has rejected forms and parts of our souls. And most of the time, our mind, well, perhaps it's only my mind, is in a state of confusion and a state of disclarity. The very few healing traditions discuss the aspects of the chakras along our back. And I want to talk about that because this is where the instinct injured, or the rifts between the mind, the body, and the soul can occur. We all know we have the chakras in the front. An aspect of the front chakras correlates to emotions and feelings. Front chakras are your visible self. Back have an aspect correlating to your will function. They are also your unseen and mysterious connection to the divine, the unnameable, the unknowing divine. In yoga, When we do back bends, we are leaning into the universe and into the source, knowing they've got my back. It is really an exercise of trust to bend backwards, even more so because we're exposing our front, our vulnerable side. And sometimes the stomach can even fight us, pulling us upward. Never, ever underestimate the power of the physical body to overcome willpower and desire. Patterns and fears are held deep within our physical self. I'll give you an example. Are held deep within our physical self. I'll give you an example. The very first time, or probably one of the very first times, I decided to use the rattle with my left hand. I put the rattle in my left hand, and unknowing to myself, my right hand reached across and grabbed hold of the rattle. Now that was many, many years ago, and this was in the process of me trying to understand and learn about my physical body. I found that absolutely fascinating, that the right hand would automatically, without what I would assume conscious knowledge, take that out of my left hand. So I learned at that point to never underestimate the power of the body to overcome willpower or desire. When I work with somebody and when I work with myself, I pay special attention to chakras, so the 3 located on the head. This gives me what could be invaluable insight into mental processes. So do the ideas or the spiritual matter coming through into the crown chakra, then winding into the intellectual, the third eye, beginning to see that abstract, to coming out into the voice and flowing down into the same view or the same point of creation. So are these chakras spinning in the same direction? And interpretation can be tricky. The reason I mention that is because sometimes journeying to the guardians of your chakras can be tricky, and it doesn't always work the way you think it might. Your way to introduce the guardians of your chakras, is by riding the horse, the drum, the reindeer in shamanic language. It's what's going to carry you, drum willing, back to the mundane world. This journey takes us very deep in our own bodies. And journey work is a method of self-analysis, self-healing, and individual understanding. I ask you to put your intention forward to develop a relationship with your guardian. With a deepening of your relationships with your guardian, you will naturally create a language with your guardians. And this can only serve to enhance and grow your own understanding of your physical body. I encourage you to journey twice the first time around, to your first 4 chakras. Continue on at another point in time, but break this lesson up, and you may just decide to journey to the first 2 chakras, and then come back and journey again to the next 2. I'm not sure what you're going to do. Focus on the spiritual and the realness of your guardians. I want you to get out of your head and travel into your body. Now, each chakra has a guardian, and it is your task to find out who or what is guarding your chakras. The premise for this journey work begins with finding your first chakra, and then to introduce yourself. So then we journey to the second. So you introduce yourself, and then you ask that chakra to come with you, that guardian, to come with you to the second chakra. So that you're literally introducing to the 2 of them. Eventually you're going to bring all your guardians into one place. First, I ask that you keep an open mind to who or what your guardian will be. Second, pay very special attention to the health of your chakra guardian. And when you first meet your guardian, ask about the health of that particular chakra. Is there anything you can do? Is there anything you can do to make it healthier? Pay attention to the details of the location. Are there trees with your chakra? Are you by a lake? Is it a crystal cave? Is it just a singular being and nothing else surrounding it? All of these details relate to the energy of your physical body. Everything counts. Alert awareness, awake awareness. Now, third, once you awake awareness. Now, third, once you feel you have found out what you need to know from your guardian and what they think, you should ask it to come with you again, as I said before, to the next chakra up. And once you meet the next chakra, seek out your guardian as you did before. Ask the same questions and find out what you need to know. Then introduce your guardians to each other. You may be very surprised at their relationship or their lack thereof. It's very fascinating. Lastly, write. We are working in a deep trance state, and the likelihood of you remembering these experiences a ways down the road, perhaps even years down. In trance, we experience situational memory, experience memory. And these memories are specifically tied to that state of your mind. And it doesn't always translate into the mundane reality and your attention in the mundane reality. So do yourself a favor and record these experiences. If you come back to it in 6 months or 6 years later, you will have a record of your energetic and physical health that may just be invaluable. So, what do you do? Your first journey will focus on getting you into your body and journeying through it. Your intention is to journey to your root chakra and seek out your guardian. And once you've completed this, what you need to do is journey to your second, to your chakra, sacral chakra. I cannot stress enough, pay attention. Over the years, and in teaching this a few times, it seems that it's best to only do 2 at a time. After you've introduced the first 2, come back into the room. You can leave your 2 guardians together where you last saw them, or they may of their own accord return to their respective places. But you will need them to come with you for the next set of journeys. So write your experience, draw if that's your intent, reflect on how you feel physically. Pay attention, do you have an increase in energy? Can you feel your chakras where you could not before? Do they feel different? And the second journey is to meet chakras 3 and 4. So when you go to start the drum or the rattle or however you journey, start where if you exited out of a place in the second chakra, go back to that place. And if you need to, travel to the first chakra, collect your guardian, and start your journey there. You will know best where to start and what to do. Once you are there, take the first 2 guardians to the third chakra, repeat the steps of meet and greet, introduce them, and journey to the fourth chakra. Before you leave the spirit world, take time to express gratitude to your guardians. A short prayer of thanks is always appreciated. To share a personal story in regards to this work, I talked earlier about flipping the chakras and flipping the colors. And I used to have quite a bit of tension in my third chakra. And I didn't realize it at the time. Awareness is built. It doesn't come in a flash generally. And generally, we learn about our bodies slowly. We learn about the energy of our bodies slowly. So I would often put my hands in fists and cover my third chakra, or I was always in the point of where I felt like I was pressing into it. When I journeyed to meet the guardian of my chakra, it's a pronged, horned antelope. And the antelope really made sense to me because sometimes my power is running all over the place and sometimes it's free. And when I spoke to the guardian when I spoke to the antelope, what the antelope said is, when tense in my stomach, to sit for a moment, move back into that chakra, and use my hands to push the sky and the ground apart. Because when I feel compacted, it is represented, or it is mimicked, or it is the same in my chakra, in that the sky and the earth itself have come together and are squishing each other. That was a very valuable lesson. And over the years of becoming more and more aware of that chakra, I can't even stand to put my hands over that chakra anymore. It is a power source. It is a very powerful chakra. I still get tension in that place, and I still have sometimes a band of tension in the fascia myself, and I'm not taking care of myself, so I'm losing my power out. One of the tools for cleaning my chakra, if it's feeling really stuck, is when I'm in the shower, I take my finger and I go in a clockwise direction around that chakra. And what I envision, or what I see, is myself literally stirring the pot and scooping things out. So I circle around my chakra a number of times, maybe 10 or 20 times. And as I do it, I envision myself gathering whatever is blocking that chakra, and then I pull it out and I put it down the drain, and I pull it out and I put it down the drain. Another very important part of keeping my chakras very open and very aware is through breath work. And I start my breath in my root chakra, and I move my breath up to the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh. And as I breathe out, I envision that the energy is coming down over top of my crown chakra. And I feel as though, when we squeeze icing out of a tube, or when we squeeze a freezy out of the package, we squeeze it, we work that way up, we work something up, or we work something out of a confined space. I feel when I'm breathing out and I'm breathing down through all of my chakras, I feel like everything is being squeezed out of me. So I feel as though when I'm doing my chakra breathing, I feel as though I'm pushing out the blocks, or some residual blocks, or some dust, or some debris, whatever has been encountered within me. And when I breathe in, sometimes I like to use my fingers and wave. So I'll breathe in and I'll use my hands to bring in, or to feel like I'm bringing waves of breath into my body. So I'll breathe in, and as I do so, my hands turn out like a wave. You know how the wave comes into the water and then comes out, and the wave pushes into the beach and then slowly comes out, pushes in. So my hands pull in the breath, and as I breathe out, they push out the breath. So as I breathe in the universal energy through that chakra, and I breathe out through that chakra. Another experience that I had with my chakras, I had opposites. So in my root chakra, it was very, very red. as your root chakra is, or at least mine is. Very, very red. But what came out of it, the guardian, is absolutely black and huge. And wearing around the neck, its neck, on a string, is one of my very own teeth. And I use my teeth in my divination, in my divination pouch that I fondly term stones, bones, nuts, and teeth. And the tooth is my teeth, but it doesn't sound as good. Stones, bones, nuts, and tooth. And the tooth is really become an important part of my divination tools, really an important part of determining health and wellness. So I also knew that I was making a lot of really big decisions at that. So I also knew that I was making a lot of really big decisions at that time. And I had read that grinding your teeth or losing your teeth or your teeth sore is that you're mulling over decisions. And that tooth was a fundamental turning part for me in some very large understandings about myself. So it made sense that this tooth, the root of something so important to me, would be represented with that guardian. And when I brought the guardian up from my root chakra to the second chakra, that guardian was very long and very tall and could reach up through all, but had coiled itself around. And when we moved up to the third chakra, it was very interesting to watch it was interesting to placate the antelope, who is very prone to running, well, briskly jumping as well. They're beautiful to watch. And the two guardians that were very fierce guardians, and to bring them together and to make a relationship and a friendship with them. When I moved into the heart and I brought everybody up into my heart, my chakra had two aspects. So there were two parts. And then from my throat chakra, there were 6 guardians, all within the same species, but there were 6 of them. And when I moved up to my third eye was an ethereal being. And when I moved up to my crown chakra, it was a pyramid, but the pyramid was made of individual pieces of glass, not one piece of glass. So there may have been 54 small windows on each side of the chakra. And inside each of those windows was a relationship, a different memory. And when I walked into the pyramid, in and of itself, that's where all of us met, because the pyramid couldn't move. It was literally the top of my head. And I find sometimes when people are offering me to sit in their pyramids or to place things in pyramids, I can't sit in a pyramid. It almost feels like it activates my own crown so much that the energy of it can overwhelm me and can make me a bit on the nauseous side. My chakra guardians also have taught me how to breathe and to protect my back chakras. So my divine connection, my unconscious self. So if I'm feeling pain in my heart, then I'll journey to the guardians of the heart chakra, and all of us will turn around and face the back chakra and see whether or not there's been a hole. Sometimes we get stabbed in the back. Sometimes we receive bad news and it wounds us. We're unexpected injury. Maybe we've been rear-ended. Many of these things can affect the back chakras. So understanding the health of the chakra guardian, really helps to, I think, balance my own energy. If I have had a very stressful day, or I've had a situation that has left me feeling unbalanced, I will often take my pendulum and I will read the chakra for myself and figure out what that says. and then go into a meditation or a journey and talk with that chakra guardian and say, hey, this is what's going on, and how are we going to fix it, and do a lot of breath work. And it comes out to be a very effective way of dealing with myself on a physical, keeping my body and my spiritual, my emotional, my intellectual fairly healthy. I have also used my chakras going back in time, and I've journeyed out of my unconscious self, so out of the back of my body. And as I journey on that chakra line, I'm trying to find out who is sucking my power away from me. Where has my familial line, my maternal line, my paternal line, where have they lost power along the way that I have a sore lower back, or I feel weakness in my spine, or I feel this in my security and my sense of self? Those are some ideas as to what you can do in order to accept, acknowledge, and have a relationship with your chakras. It is a process. And I know that over the years when I've taught this, I have only generally dedicated 1 or 2 circles, 2 at the very most, circles to the chakras. And what I have noticed over and over again is how the chakra guardians refuse to meet each other. That's a huge lesson. That's a huge lesson in our relationship to our body. Maybe our security is afraid of our power, or maybe our power doesn't want to dwell within our heart, or maybe afraid of our power, or maybe our power doesn't want to dwell within our heart, or maybe our heart wants nothing to do with the throat because the throat has betrayed the heart by either not speaking, by speaking too much, whatever that matter is. How do we interpret it? How do we know our bodies? How do we know these things? Pay attention to that, and pay attention to how you feel when you encounter that your chakras don't want to meet each other. They don't want to know each other. And what can you do to negotiate a peace? But what I have found, my initial point before I got sidetracked, what I have found is oftentimes we don't complete these journeys. So we have half a story. We have half the chakras met, or 3 of the chakras met, or 4 of the chakras met. But we don't have a whole picture. Bring discipline into your practice. It is through discipline, it is through continuous self-analysis and continuous self-love and self-exploration that we come to peace with the aspects of our body. Remember, we can repair our soul's relationship to our mind and our mind's relationship to our body. We can repair the instinct injured part of ourselves. We can remind ourselves what is normal is not abnormal, and what is abnormal is not normal. There are many ways to health. There are many ways to understanding health. This is merely one tool in a sea of many beautiful tools. I hope you have enjoyed a lesson as opposed to simply an exploration of a topic. I hope you do explore the guardians, and I would love it if you went to the website shamansway.net and left a comment how you progressed with your journeys. I would love to have feedback and provide feedback. I wish you a lovely rest of your day or your evening. I look forward to gathering with you again in the future. And in the meantime, I wish you many blessings. I wish you just whatever it is that you absolutely need. That is what I wish you. Goodbye.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.